It starts on Monday, a slow, silent countdown. 5 more days until you can live again. Work is endured, not experienced. Responsibilities become a prison. The hours pass like sand through clenched fists. Each task, each obligation, just a step closer to that moment. Friday night. We've normalized this pattern. Society celebrates it. Memes joke about it. But beneath the laughter lies a quiet desperation. A life divided into 2 halves. One is gray, heavy, and filled with silent suffering. The other? A brief escape into music, alcohol, lights, and momentary euphoria. But what are we really escaping? This isn't about parties or drinks or fun with friends. It's about why we need them so desperately. For many, weekends have become anesthetic. Temporary ways to silence an inner voice that whispers, "This isn't what you want." It's not the job. It's not the city. It's something deeper, something spiritual. Erich Fromm once said that modern humans run from freedom, the very structure of our lives. Constant stimulation, endless schedules keeps us from facing ourselves. The weekend is marketed as liberation, but often it's a scheduled distraction. Psychologically, this behavior is known as escapism. It's the subconscious attempt to avoid confronting emotional discomfort, lack of purpose, or suppressed trauma. And we reward it. Clubbing becomes self-care, drinking becomes letting go, and hangovers become just another joke in the endless meme cycle of modern loneliness. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this the society of fatigue, a world where performance replaces presence, where we are always doing but rarely being. The weekend becomes our only space to breathe, not because it's restful, but because it's loud enough to drown out the silence of our inner world. But here's the truth. When we live only for weekends, we declare the rest of our life unworthy of being lived. This cycle is not freedom. It is a cage, decorated with lights and sound, yes, but a cage nonetheless. And the most dangerous prison is the one you celebrate. So the question is not, how was your weekend? The real question, why do you need to escape your life every single week? Because maybe, just maybe, what you're running from isn't your job, your schedule, or your responsibilities. Maybe you're running from yourself. We live in a culture that mistakes distraction for fulfillment. We fill our calendars, our inboxes, and finally our weekends with stimulation. Loud music, bright lights, endless scrolling, constant social interaction. It's all designed to keep one thing at bay: silence. But silence is dangerous. In silence, the truth begins to speak. And for many, that truth is a hollow echo. I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm here. I feel empty. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once described despair not as sadness, but as the deep anxiety of not being connected to one's true self. We wear social masks so well that we forget we're wearing them. Monday to Friday, we become the professional. On the weekend, we switch masks and become the wild one, the fun one, the life of the party. But what happens when the music stops? The quiet creeps back in, and with it comes the frightening realization that pleasure isn't purpose, that excitement isn't meaning, that 1,000 laughs in a crowded room won't silence the ache of disconnection inside. Psychologically, this is a symptom of what Viktor Frankl called the existential vacuum, a condition of modern life where people no longer know what they are living for. In the absence of meaning, they turn to pleasure. But unlike meaning, pleasure has no depth. It doesn't build, it doesn't sustain, it only distracts and then vanishes. Nietzsche warned us about this too. In a world where God is dead and old values have crumbled, humans risk falling into nihilism, a state where nothing truly matters. And when nothing matters, all that's left is the pursuit of stimulation. But even that, eventually, loses its thrill. How many parties does it take to feel alive again? How many nights out until you realize you're still waking up to the same question? How long before you understand that the problem isn't out there, it's within? And so, the inner void grows. Not because you're broken, but because you're not listening. The constant chase for pleasure drowns out your real hunger. Not for fun, but for connection. Not for more noise, but for meaning. Not for escape, but for a return to yourself. This is the uncomfortable truth no one says aloud at the party. Most people aren't celebrating, they're numbing. And when Monday comes, the emptiness returns, heavier, deeper, more familiar. So we wait again, for Friday, for another hit, another escape. But the more we escape, the more lost we become. But what exactly are we chasing? Week after week, drink after drink, night after night. At a biological level, the answer is simple: dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that fuels motivation, reward, and pleasure. It's the brain's way of saying, do that again. Every time you anticipate a fun night out, post a party photo on social media, or sip that first drink, your brain gives you a little chemical applause. Not for fulfillment, not for growth, but for stimulation. It feels like freedom. It feels like joy, but it's not. What you're actually experiencing is a dopamine spike, a short-lived rush that fades just as quickly as it came. The brain loves pattern, and when you train it to associate relief or happiness with weekend habits, alcohol, parties, hookups, endless scrolling, you start building a neurological trap, the reward loop. And like all loops, it doesn't evolve, it repeats. In psychology, this is known as the hedonic treadmill. The more you chase pleasure, the more your brain adapts. What once gave you a thrill starts to feel dull. You need more, louder music, stronger drinks, wilder nights. But no matter how intense the high becomes, the baseline always returns to the same place: emptiness. This cycle doesn't just exhaust your body, it reshapes your mind. The prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for decision-making, long-term planning, and self-awareness, weakens with overstimulation. Meanwhile, the amygdala, your fear and impulse center, becomes hyperactive. The result? You become more reactive, less reflective, more driven by impulse, less by intention, and in this state, you're not truly choosing your weekend life. You're being pulled into it, biochemically. Even the anticipation of the weekend triggers dopamine. Studies show that people feel more excited planning an event than experiencing it. That's because dopamine spikes in anticipation, not in satisfaction. You feel alive waiting for Friday, but dead inside by Sunday. So the question becomes, are you pursuing joy, or are you just addicted to anticipation? There is a massive difference between happiness and excitement. Happiness is quiet, steady, often invisible. Excitement is loud, fast, and fleeting. But our culture, driven by algorithms, consumerism, and constant novelty, keeps feeding the latter. And neurologically, we become slaves to the spike. This isn't about morality, it's about awareness. Your brain is being hijacked every weekend, not by a villain, but by a system you never stop to question. The likes, the lights, the laughs, all engineered to keep you chasing, never arriving. And slowly, your inner compass breaks. You no longer ask, is this right for me? You ask, is this fun? But in the pursuit of fun, you forget yourself. But what happens when this forgetting becomes permanent? When your entire identity starts to dissolve into the rhythm of escape? It begins subtly. You stop asking the deeper question, what do I value? What do I believe in? Who do I want to become? Instead, your life becomes a reaction. A calendar filled with events, a phone filled with group chats, a mind constantly looking forward to the next escape. And one day, you look in the mirror, and you don't recognize the person staring back. This is not dramatization. It's the real psychological cost of repeated escapism, the erosion of identity. Carl Jung called it the loss of soul. He believed that modern individuals, cut off from introspection, community, and spiritual reflection, fall into an artificial existence, what he called persona living. You wear roles instead of being real. You become what the group expects, what the party demands, what the weekend rewards. You are no longer someone. You are everyone, and therefore no one. This is the tragedy of the modern self. It becomes fragmented. Your weekdays are shaped by duty and external pressure. Your weekends are shaped by impulse and external stimulation. Neither version is whole, neither is integrated, and so the true self, the one that exists beneath all masks, goes silent. You feel it most on Sunday night, that quiet panic, that strange sense of collapse. The lights are off, your body is tired, and suddenly your mind whispers, What am I even doing with my life? But you push the thought away. You numb it with TikTok, Netflix, or plans for the next weekend. Anything but stillness. Anything but confrontation. This psychological state has a name: ego diffusion, a loss of continuity in the sense of self. You float, you drift, you go through the motion, but nothing feels anchored. Your values blur, your sense of direction fades, and in that space of fog, anxiety grows like mold. The worst part? You look normal, maybe even fun. Your Instagram looks alive. Your stories are full of friends and food and flash, but your inner life? It's flat. Your emotions feel muted. Your thoughts feel repetitive. You sense something is missing, but can't name it. And that's because the part of you that could name it, the conscious, grounded self, has been buried under layers of performance and distraction. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre called this bad faith, living inauthentically, denying your own freedom by playing roles instead of making choices. The partygoer who doesn't even like partying, the joker who is secretly depressed, the successful one who feels dead inside. You become trapped in a character. And the longer you play it, the harder it is to stop, because stopping means silence. And silence means meeting yourself again. But who is that self now? Can you still find them beneath the years of overstimulation, avoidance, and emotional neglect? Can you sit in a room alone without needing to escape? Can you feel your own presence without artificial highs? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary. Because at some point, if you continue down this path, the void inside you becomes louder than the music outside, and the only way out is in. But going inward is hard. When everyone around you is still rushing outward, you may begin to sense the emptiness. You may even feel ready to break the cycle. But then Friday comes, and so do the messages. You coming out tonight? We need you. Don't be boring. And just like that, the quiet voice inside you gets drowned by the roar of the crowd. Social pressure is subtle, seductive, and deeply human. We are tribal creatures. Our brains evolved to seek connection, approval, and belonging. To be excluded from the group once meant death. Today, it just means FOMO. But emotionally, the feeling is the same: anxiety, fear, self-doubt. So we conform, we dress the part, we laugh at the jokes, we toast to nothing. And sometimes, it doesn't even feel like pressure. It feels like friendship. But real friends don't keep you running from yourself. Real friends don't need you to drink to be interesting. They don't panic when you say, "I need a quiet weekend." They listen, they support, they grow with you. But most social circles aren't built on that kind of depth. They're built on rituals of distraction, brunches, bars, beach trips, endless plans that serve as cover for a deeper fear, being alone with ourselves. And so the group becomes a cage, not because they're evil, but because they're lost, too. They're also escaping. They're also addicted to the spike. And when you start to wake up, it threatens the system, because your change forces them to look at their own life, and not everyone is ready for that. So they joke, they mock, they call you too serious, too deep, not fun anymore. But the truth is, you were never really having fun. You were just sedated together. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard described this as the crowd as untruth. He believed that the individual is most inauthentic when swallowed by the collective, when you abandon your own soul in favor of approval. And in modern life, the weekend group has become a modern crowd. Not just physical friends, but also digital ones. Algorithms echo the same pressures. Influencers sell the same lies. Fun is the new god, and to question it is blasphemy. But question it, you must. Because culture won't do it for you. Culture profits from your emptiness. There's an entire economy built on your dissatisfaction. Drinks to buy, clothes to wear, places to post. If you felt truly content, you'd be a terrible consumer. So they sell you a feeling, excitement, chaos, novelty, but never peace. Peace doesn't trend. Solitude doesn't get likes. Introspection doesn't sell tickets. And yet, these are the things that nourish the soul. These are the things that make life meaningful. Breaking free will feel like loss. You'll feel distant from people you once laughed with. You'll feel misunderstood, maybe even lonely. But loneliness for the sake of your truth is better than connection built on lies. And in time, you'll see something beautiful, that the more you choose stillness, the more your real self returns. And when it does, it no longer needs a crowd to feel whole, to live without needing the crowd. This is the beginning of freedom. It won't be easy. After years of chasing noise, silence can feel unbearable. But within that silence is where truth begins. Healing is not loud. Growth doesn't come with firework. It starts quietly, with a decision. One small, radical choice: to be present. The first step is not isolation, it's intention. You don't need to abandon your life, your city, or your friends. You need to stop abandoning yourself. Before you accept the next invitation, ask, is this something I truly want, or something I feel expected to do? Before you open another drink or another app, ask, what am I trying to escape right now? These questions are simple, but they change everything. Because with every honest answer, you take your power back. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche believed that becoming who you are requires a kind of rebellion, not against society, but against your own comfort. He called it the will to power, not power over others, but power over the self. The strength to rise above distraction, to shape your life like a work of art. You don't need a perfect plan, you need presence. Start with one quiet weekend. Read, walk, reflect, do nothing. Let your nervous system reset. Let your mind slow down. At first, your body will resist. It's addicted to the high. It will crave stimulation, but sit through it. Observe it like a scientist, and then ask, what else is there beneath the craving? Often, you'll find pain, loneliness, regret. These are not signs of failure. They are signs of awakening. Because now, finally, you are feeling what the parties kept hidden. And this pain? It's not your enemy. It's your compass. It shows you where healing is needed. It shows you where your attention must go. Over time, the noise inside you will quiet. Your sleep will deepen. Your thoughts will clear. And something miraculous will happen. You will start to feel alive, not artificially, not temporarily, but deeply, consistently, peacefully. You'll discover that joy isn't in the crowd. It's in the morning sun. It's in a deep conversation. It's in showing up for your goals, your values, your real life. And as you build this new foundation, a new kind of strength will emerge. One not built on escape, but on grounded clarity. You'll become someone others trust. Someone they come to when their own noise becomes too loud. And maybe, just maybe, you'll help others wake up too. Because this is how change spreads. Not through sermons, but through example. Not through judgment, but through quiet courage. You won't be perfect. You'll slip. You'll doubt. But you'll never go back to being asleep. Because once you've tasted the truth, the lie loses its flavor. This is your life. And now, it's finally yours again.